Hey guys, it's day 47 of 100 on OpenClaw, and today I want to talk to you about SurrealDB. So I've been talking about it the last 2 days. I know you guys are probably really tired of it, but I wanted to just kind of show you something cool. So let me just do that.
Is there anything in here that will make markets more predictable? This is just purely scientific data, but let's say that I wanted to be able to figure that out based on all this data, not related to finance. If you took this and put it into a frontier model, you might be able to come up with some pretty good stuff. That's a cool thing. You can load a frontier model into this, it'll just make it that much better. All right, the data indicates that market predictability can be improved through specific modeling techniques. Satellite-based footprint area serves as a useful predictor for total head of cattle and beef operation. This is actually really interesting.
So you might be wondering, why should I use SurrealDB? Because I already have on my OpenClaw all of my knowledge base stored, right? That's what you're thinking. And it is already kind of mapped and it knows where to go to look for something. And when it needs to go find something, it just goes out and gets whatever it needs and then uses it. So that is absolutely correct. That is an astute observation. But the thing is that Surreal can handle and find things differently. Here's an example of what SurrealDB can do. Let's say you have customer data and you've got all these products in one table, you've got all of these customers and their activity in another, and you've got all of the web traffic activity in another, and you've got all of the returns in another. What you can do is you can say, show me all the customers that were return customers who bought products similar to a Logitech mouse. And then you can specify what you mean by similar, but you can kind of use that fuzziness of something similar to, or customers like this one. And you can say things like, I need them to be in this geography. So I need customers that are based in New York City, okay? And based in LA specifically. So you can make that deterministic. And then you can make other areas more fuzzier or less deterministic, like, and probably watches XY TV show. So you're saying an interest type, and you can kind of do that with this. And you can't really do that as well with other kind of memory stores. Also, the temporal nature. If you structure your model to handle temporal changes, like for example, today the truck might be painted red, but then you had a meeting and in the transcript you guys talked about you painted the truck orange. So when you ask the color of the truck in the database, you still want to know that the truck its original color, but then you also want to know that now it's orange, right? And so, and even prediction, is this like a theme? Do you guys change it based on whatnot and be able to predict out into the future? So how it works with like deterministic time and with like inferring things with AI models is really cool. So I'm going to show you in this video how that works.
All right, so the benefit of Surreal and this Surreal Investigate platform that I have open sourced is that you can essentially test out any model that you want that is on OpenRouter, and support for other platforms are coming soon, but it obviously supports pretty much everything. You can load it through here for ease of use, or you can do it through environment variables to be more secure. And then basically you create a cache. So these are all of various file sizes. So 25 files, one file, these are usually larger files. So this one is for this. So a lot of data, but it's all textual. So I want to structure this data that's all here, and I want to be able to query it kind of like I would query a MySQL database, but I want to get deterministic results back, but I also want to be able to use fuzzy search throughout this. Like I want to be able to say, give me all where in 2015 it was 500 meters, right? So India, Indonesia, Iran, Italy, Japan, right, would be return. However, I also would like countries that in that year had public sentiment be XYZ, right? And so if that is represented also in this document, public sentiment, or that's a really bad example, but something else that doesn't have necessarily a concrete value, then it can also query that. One good example is if you're talking about shoppers and you have information about their checkout time, you have information about what they bought, but then you want to also be able to get people who bought similar things, something like that. So let's just see this in action. Basically, now this whole thing is set up so that you can kind of do everything and configure everything. I won't go through all of it in this video. Maybe in future videos we'll dig into that. But these are the files. So we have cattle operations, we have rice cultivation, we have synthetic fertilizer data, manure application with emissions. So we have just a lot of emissions, CO2, NO2 data, and they're quite big, 3.9 megabytes of data, 17.1 megabytes of data, and they're all loaded in. You'll create/refresh the index generally after you've done this, which is generate 3 data model plus indexing strategy plans. So this takes a little bit of time, but is really important. I'll return to this. I'll let it go ahead and generate it, but I've already generated it for this one. So you get a main topic focus. So it'll give you like domain lexicon and things like that. You can see the Surreal format, and this is the all-inclusive one. So it's more robust. So it really just helps you format for what you're looking for. So I usually go with comprehensive. So I get a really, and I'm actually working on this to improve how it works. So it's not perfect yet, and I'll actually create some issues and whatnot, but I mean, it gets deep with all this. Like, it's pretty interesting what you can do, but it's a good starting point. I see why there's such a great community around this. It's just the more you know about it, the less you feel like you know about it. But I think that's the beauty of all this stuff. So once you've generated it, then you're able to chat. So it by default has Surreal Search only, which does not use AI at all. Your AI uses Surreal Search. And that's the cool part about this. So Surreal chunks everything into pieces, indexes everything, sets up a table if you want, and does all that. You can download the indexed, the table, and you can get the data. How that is done, how that is structured is based on your indexing. So you can describe what you want, and then you can generate it, right? And your model will work the best it can, and by default, Investigate provides so much data to support your model, or to support your model in developing the schema or the data model and the indexing strategy. Okay, a lot of CO2 emission data here. However, is there anything in here that will make markets more predictable? You can see this whole thing is very transparent in how it explains what is happening at any given time, so you can diagnose it. This is actually really interesting. All right, so in future videos, we're going to dig more into this. You know, it's stuff like that. Also convert things to SurrealQL, and you can get recommended questions here based purely on this. These are not needed or necessarily generated with AI, So this is like some surreal stuff so why did communicate? It's not that they communicate, it's just that it saw relationships between these had a relationship. It kind of guides you along with the document. So you can really have fun with data with this platform. And that's what I've been doing, and I'll just continue to do that. And then one of the cool things you can do, configure this for OpenClaw. Very cool. We're still getting this set up, so it's not perfect yet. It just gives general instructions, but this will be a much cooler feature. In fact, I'll leave an issue if anyone wants to check it out. And yeah, you can download the index data and the index manifest. So these are the most important things about what you have is your manifest and your indexed data. So there's that. Future videos, I'll go more into it as this improves. So this is just the beginning of this. And it's actually, the weird part is it's hard to explain. Even if you go online, you look up SurrealDB and try to understand it can be a little bit difficult. So I'm trying to do it the best I can, but it's just really amazing what actually comes out of it, even when it's not even configured the best possible way, because you can really optimize this and optimize this. And I think even platforms like the ones like Mythos and stuff, like what they did actually was get good at this with advanced models. Like advanced models with this together creates very powerful systems. And so I'm excited to continue on the journey with my OpenClaw, as my OpenClaw has just been developing this with me, and we've been just communicating, and I'm more of a tester and feedback giver, and we just keep going. I know there's a bad word for that called vibe coding, and I don't think that's what this is. At least I hope not. But we're working on it. I'll call it tribe coding, because we're a team. So this has been a great day. Thanks for watching.